Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new season, technically of a brand new podcast. You may have been a follower of Why Relationships Matter in the Innovation Economy, but you are now tuned in to the Goody Nation podcast. Different name, same mission. So if you are new here, Goody Nation, of course, exists to help bridge the relationship gap for underserved founders from the social entrepreneurship space, the tech entrepreneurship space. We are creating opportunities, programs, pairing people with mentors and coaches. And in this particular time of our socio-political climate, we are leaning in and being leaders to help navigate some of the interesting things that are going on. And so one of our major programs that we have as a part of the family is Atlanta Black Tech. And I'm so excited to have two of our team members from Atlanta Black Tech here to talk to us a little bit about an event that, like the times, had to morph in a few different ways, but was aimed at helping to create dialogue and conversation about the state of the Atlanta Black tech ecosystem. So before we dive in, I would love to have our two amazing team member guests introduce themselves, starting with Raeshawn.
Thanks for the introduction, Kacie. As you just mentioned, my name is Raeshawn Pelote, and I'm currently the program manager for Atlanta Black Tech.
Thank you so much. And how about Danielle?
Hi, Kacie and Raeshawn. Danielle Rose here, and I am supporting Goody Nation and Atlanta Black Tech in a strategic advisor capacity.
Nice. So to just kick us off, Raeshawn, could you tell us, for the folks who may be tuning in and they're like, oh, Atlanta Black Tech, what's that exactly? Tell us just a little bit about what Atlanta Black Tech does.
So at Atlanta Black Tech, our ultimate goal is just to make sure that our ecosystem leaders are staying in control and staying in charge and properly goal setting. So when I think about the ecosystem leaders, we're talking about all things K through higher ed, corporate tech workforce, and then startups and investors.
Thank you. And so, yes, we are talking about what ended up being part one of an event that recently took place, the State of the Atlanta Black Tech Ecosystem, sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. In these times, I think shouting out the folks who are supporting this type of work is even more important than ever. So thank you, Tito's. And so, Danielle, I would love for you to tell us about any particular standout moments or conversations or aha things that you heard during part one of this event, which took place virtually.
Sure. I mean, I think overall, given the rather fitful stops and starts to the event due to things completely out of the control of Goody Nation as an organization, it was very much all in Mother Nature's hands, let's say. We were able to convene a few hundred people online, and I think that is really remarkable in the sense that it speaks to just the overall appetite for these type of convenings and for the Atlanta community in particular to come together to be able to talk about the three main areas of focus for the Atlanta Black Tech Summit was around K-12 computer science education, also as even Raeshawn mentioned, tech workforce, as well as startup investors and founders. And so we were able to speak to multiple people for each panel that was held. And overall, just like beyond just even the amount of people that showed up, it wasn't just people were in the virtual room. They were incredibly active. They were incredibly energized. And that was demonstrated by way of the chat. That was constant. It was very energetic. And a lot of people had a lot to say, a lot of questions. And so I just want to really color what the environment was like. In the backdrop of this convening, as you've already alluded to, there is a climate that we are experiencing right now, sociopolitically speaking, that is unfamiliar to a lot of us in terms of how we have been able to come to understand and experience our government. And so that was also very much telling in terms of just even what each panel talked about. So in terms of the aha moments, I would say what stood out to me, having built the last dozen or so years of my career in the education space, specifically around STEM justice education, I would say that it was very compelling and just further confirming in terms of just the absolute need for there to be a lot more attention placed on ensuring that there is equitable access to computer science for our young Black and Brown youth. And I thought that panel did a really good job of bringing the data and really demonstrating and building the case, quite frankly, as to why this particular aspect of our education system is in need of attention. And so I would say that was something that stood out to me in terms of just knowing and hearing more of the data. And while there's been movement and there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of different activities centering around ensuring that there is some type of equitable, access to CS education, I'll say that we still just have a long ways to go. And that was definitely talked about in the meeting, on the panel itself. So yeah, I think that panel was probably the most pronounced to me in terms of just hearing the data, as well as some of the calls to action that I thought were pretty powerful in terms of, I know even one panelist mentioned to run for your local school board to really be able to get involved and engaged and actually move on some of the very direct policies that will impact the young people in the local education system there. And there was also a big call to philanthropy. I know that right now, as we are even experiencing as of today, the freeze on federal funds, this is where we are going to have to be a lot more creative and solution focused around what are the different funding streams that we will be able to tap in to support and close some of the systemic inequities that we have been experiencing for quite some time now.
I think you really hit the nail on the head there when you're mentioning, this event took place last week. In a week's time, we as a country, a city, an innovation ecosystem are in a new space than we were last week and are potentially facing new issues, new obstacles. And so with both the rapid nature of how things are changing, but also with the need for us to really ramp up our community building and being a leadership organization and being an organization that folks know that they can rely on. Raeshawn, I would love to hear from you and to hear, why are events like this necessary right now? I mean, this was kind of a hard fought event to keep, the Mother Nature was like, but we were like, no, it's happening. We're going to make it work. And so why do we as Atlanta Black Tech, Goody Nation, as just folks who are existing, need to keep creating spaces for people to have these discussions and calls to action?
Absolutely. Great question. I would say there are so many different areas to really touch on why events like this are necessary. One of the things I would start with is, at times like this, like just hearing other perspectives are, definitely needed. Reason being is because you can have one perspective of, whatever the climate is. Your perspective can be just one way. But, listening to your neighbor, listening to other people that are within the ecosystem, some of the issues that they're dealing with, sometimes it's good to hear those issues, because those issues sometimes may actually be yours, and sometimes we're often blindsided. But also too, times like this, it's good for leaders to step up, and that's why it's really important for organizations like us, Atlanta Black Tech, to serve in the capacity that we do. It's our job essentially to make sure that these ecosystem partners and these ecosystem leaders, are goal setting because, you know, essentially like when you take a leadership role, you are responsible for the people that are within your community. And so right now, a lot of people are looking for leadership and guidance. And so, events like this, brings everyone together and it provides the platform, for us to receive the information and also be able to provide the information. Now, of course, we had no control over what Mother Nature hadn't planned for us. Like our goal was to do this event in person. And ultimately, I do feel like these events are more impactful in person. However, the shift, to us being virtual also provided us some opportunities. Now, even though, we weren't able to do Q&A sessions, it was it was partially distracting, but also it was also amazing to see so many people engaged in a comment section. And it was a lot of I saw, I know myself, and Danielle, we talked about this, but we saw people build a community within the chat. You had people, not only just promoting themselves, but also just letting other people in the community know, like, hey, listen, I have these resources over here. So the things that you are worried about, I can provide a solution. Another thing that was often dropped in, that I often saw in the chat was, at the end of the day, we are all we got. And so that group, that chat alone, that chat with everyone was just, dropping information. That was a testament to that. Because clearly, I saw a lot of answers. I saw a lot of questions being answered in that chat. I saw a lot of solutions being provided in the chat. And so again, it goes to show that we can be our own solutions to the issues and problems that we have. And so I do like events like this, are needed, especially like, with us going to virtual, shifting to virtual, provide us the opportunity to create this town hall that we're going to have this Saturday. And with this town hall, all of those questions that we had in the chat that some people may have missed, they have the opportunity to come in on Saturday and vocalize those questions and vocalize those concerns. And then also too, we're still going to have some of those panelists return, and possibly they can even answer some of those questions. And then other, subject matter experts that are be in the crowd, they can also answer some of those questions. So overall, these types of events are extremely important. It's essential that we do them, and we're going to continue to do them.
I appreciate you mentioning the difference between the virtual setting and the in-person setting, but how community can still be built in the virtual setting. Like we're just blurring the divides between virtual and in person, but I'm very excited that we are going to have the opportunity to connect with the community in person on Saturday, February the 1st at the Gathering Spot. To close us out, Danielle, do you have any thoughts about what people who are maybe like, oh, I might go, but what's it gonna be about? What's gonna be there for me? How would you get them out to this event on Saturday? Part 2.
Yeah, I think I would start off just by saying that if it's not clear, or if it hasn't been clear, hopefully it is clear at this point for us all that we are all we got as a community. And I think that we are going to have to be rigid with our vision and our goals that we have for the community and closing the gaps as we know them firsthand, specifically in the tech space, starting from K-12 education through higher ed, the workforce, and for sure, our startup investing community as well as founders, right? So we need to get aligned around the vision. And definitely we need to also stay flexible in our strategies because the strategies of yesterday are not going to necessarily be applicable to the strategies needed for today, because as we are experiencing in real time, every day is bringing something new for us to consider. And So what Saturday really represents is an opportunity for the community to come together and really start to identify what is our collective vision, what are our collective goals, and in turn, what is the work that we can do across the community in the different ways that we are able to support. And Raeshawn even mentioned this earlier as it relates to what was happening in the chat and the type of networking and ecosystem building that we saw happening just in a virtual world. This is an opportunity, Saturday that is, for us to come together and do it in person. And I think we know the power of being amongst one another and being able to truly start to co-design what it is that we need to do for the most immediate time frame, and in order to not only just protect ourselves, but ultimately sustain ourselves for the next 3+ years and then some. So I think that's what Saturday represents. It's really an opportunity for us to leverage our relationships, further deepen our networks, and build a collective vision and set of goals.
I love it. Thank you both so much for your dedication to helping to build this community. And with all the things that have changed and shifted, you're rocking and rolling, which is it's kind of the vibe. Some of that's going to be the vibe. So thank you for being leaders in that regard. And so, Raeshawn, how can folks learn more about this event, learn more about ABT beyond this event? What should folks do?
Well, first things first, if you have not joined the Atlanta Black Tech community, please do so by going to atlantablack.tech.org. And then also you can follow Atlanta Black Tech on Instagram just to receive the information about, future events, but then also receive the information about Saturday. I definitely look forward to seeing many of you this Saturday. We had a lot planned for the initial one. I was supposed to be in person. So even though we missed out on the Tito's opportunity at this last one, you have a chance to, come indulge, this Saturday. I personally won't be drinking. I'm still dry January. So yeah, but absolutely. Yeah, please. So, join the Atlanta Black Tech community, follow us on Instagram, and, we'll see you Saturday.
Amazing. Well, it's amazing to be back and to be with you all during what is going to be a year that is going to require lots of community collaboration. I believe Danielle said co-design, which I love that, co-designing. And the theme for this year here at Goody Nation is Imagine That, imagining what we want our Atlanta Black Tech ecosystem to look like and doing the work to get there. And so we hope to see you on Saturday. We hope that you'll join us for the next episode of the Goody Nation podcast. Stay tuned on all the Goody Nation social channels to find out when that's going to drop. And we hope that you are having a restful and yet productive day. Bye-bye.